Hello and welcome to the channel, and I am here for a video about the band Deftones. Now, I've been a fan of Deftones since last year, 2020, which I know I'm a newer fan of these guys, but I'm glad I got into them regardless because they are a fantastic band. And Deftones, it's hard to say what genre they are in. I've heard some people say that they're new metal, they're alternative metal. I mean, you could really make the argument for either, honestly. I mean, these guys are pretty unique, so yeah, let's go ahead and get into the Deftones discography. So first up, we got Adrenaline. Now, with this album, I think it's a really great album. It's not one of their best in my opinion, but I do like it. Some highlights on this album would be Bored, Minus Blindfold, Root, and 7 Words. These are all great songs. But yeah, very raw sounding album. Obviously, it's a really great debut album for Deftones, and I think there's a lot to like about this album. I know with some people's rankings of Deftones, a lot of people would have this closer to the bottom, actually, but understandably so, but I don't know. I don't think this is their weakest, but it's not their best either. So Adrenaline, I think it's a really good album. So next, we got Around the Fur, and this is probably my favorite Deftones album. I don't know, it's really hard to pick a favorite Deftones album because honestly, this one and the album that came after, they kind of fight for number one for me at times. But yeah, Around the Fur, I mean, it's definitely a classic. Of course, you got My Own Summer, which is maybe one of their best album openers. I really dig this song. I just really like the balance of heaviness and melody in that song, and the way how Chino sounds fairly calm in this song. You also got Labia, if that's how you say it, but yeah, that's a really solid track, pretty heavy as well. I like the energy of that song. You also got Be Quiet and Drive. Again, really like the balance of heaviness and melody throughout that song. I mean, it's full of energy, and it's a more radio-friendly kind of song, and yeah, I dig it. Then you got Lotion, another great song, but there's not a single weak moment on this album, Around the Fur. It's just fantastic front to back, but yeah, so definitely a solid album. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. Definitely a great album. So next, we got White Pony. I have the album itself right here. I also have the 20th anniversary edition of White Pony that comes with Black Stallion, a remixed album, which we'll get into after I talk about the album itself. But yeah, what can I say? Another fantastic album, one of their best for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's got Digital Bath, which is maybe one of their best songs. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. It's maybe one of their best songs. I mean, you also got Elite, which is a bit different for Deftones, one of their heavier tracks. And I think it's a pretty good song. Not one of my favorites, but I think it's pretty good. Then you got Street Carp, a more straightforward track. It's not super complicated or anything, but it is one of my favorites on the album, actually. I think it's a great song. You also got Knife Party, probably one of their most underrated songs. You also got Passenger, which features Maynard from Tool. I just really like the flow and structure of this song, how in some moments it's fairly calm, and then in some other moments it's got its heaviness and energy to it. It's another great song. And then you got Change in the House of Flies, but man, what a great album this is. It's definitely one of their best. Probably one of their best albums as far as production-wise. But yeah, White Pony, great album for sure. And then we got to talk about Black Stallion, which is the remixed album of White Pony. And these remixes, I'll be honest, I don't really see having the best replay value, to be honest. I do think it is a pretty good remix album for what it is, but honestly, there's only really a few remixed versions of these songs that have really done anything for me, to be honest. Such as Street Carp, I think that is one of the best remixes on the album. Same with Knife Party. I really like the remix of this one. I believe this was one of the singles to this remixed album, and I don't know what kind of vocal effects are used in this song. I believe it's been mentioned before, but I don't remember what it is, but I do like the vocal effects. But yeah, Knife Party, it is one of the better remixes. And my personal favorite remix, or arguably my favorite remix on the album is probably Passenger, the Mike Shinoda remix. I really like the way they did Passenger. It's definitely very good. So, Black Stallion, the remix album, I think it's pretty solid. I mean, it's probably not going to have the strongest replay value as time goes, but I think for what it is, it's pretty solid. Then we got to talk about the self-titled album, Deftones, and I will be honest, this is probably my least favorite Deftones album. I mean, it's really something that I had to establish, throughout time, but over time, this is kind of like my, well, it probably is my least favorite Deftones album. But even with that said, it's still a good album. I mean, Deftones has never released a bad album. That's the thing. I mean, you got great songs on here like Minerva, Battle Axe, and Bloody Cape. These are pretty solid tracks. The other songs on this album are not bad, but they just don't really have the strongest replay value for me. But the self-titled album, it's pretty good, but it is probably my least favorite. And now we got the only Deftones CD that I don't have in my collection yet. That is Saturday Night Wrist. The reason I don't have it in my collection as of right now is because for some odd reason, this album is just a struggle to find. Like, I can't find this album anywhere. I've tried FYEs, exchange stores, all kind of places, CD warehouses. I mean, it's ridiculous how I can't find this album anywhere, but I will definitely have to pick it up eventually. But my thoughts on the album, I think it's pretty good. Not one of their best, though. I think Rats, Rats, Rats is a good song. Definitely one of the highlights on the album. Yeah, it's a pretty good album. Definitely different for Deftones. And yeah, it's a good album, but definitely not one of their best. But then we got to talk about Diamond Eyes, which is definitely a big step up from Saturday Night Wrist, in my opinion. This album is really good. Now, bit of a controversial opinion. I do think this album is actually kind of overrated. Not the most overrated album in the world or anything, but I don't know, because I see a lot of people say that this is one of their best, which for me it's more in the middle. That's why I think it's kind of overrated, is because a lot of people say that this is one of their best, like top 3 best, which I personally don't agree, but it is what it is. It's still a very good album. Like I said, there is no bad Deftones album. But with this album, you got the title track. I mean, the title track is fantastic. I really love the melodies in the song and those riffs as well. I don't know if it's just me that that thinks this, but the title track definitely reminds me of the band Red a little bit. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the melodies or the flow and structure of this song. I'm not sure what it is about this song that reminds me of Red, but I mean, I'm a long-time fan of Red, and yeah, I definitely don't mind that. So Diamond Eyes, the title track, is really good. Definitely one of the highlights. You also got Command Control, Rocket Skates, which is definitely one of the best tracks on the album. Risk, another underrated song from these guys. Yeah, the production, everything is good on this album. Yeah, so Diamond Eyes, definitely not one of their best in my opinion, but it is a very good album, very strong album. But then we got Koyo No Kan, which to me I think is a step up from Diamond Eyes. I mean, it's fantastic. It's a fantastic album. I can't really say they changed too much on this album. Like, they didn't really do anything to really necessarily change things up too much. But on its own, it's a fantastic album, and I think it was really well done. I mean, there is not a weak track on this album, but some highlights for me would have to be Swerve City, Romantic Dreams, Leathers, Entombed, and Tempest. These are great songs. But yeah, it's hard to narrow it down to a number 1 favorite song or even a top 3 off this album, because there's a lot of great songs on here. But yeah, Koyo No Kan, definitely a great album. Maybe one of their best. I don't know. It's got to be one of their best, though. Definitely a great album. And then we got to talk about Gore, which I know some people say is the worst Deftones album. For me, I think that this album is actually above the self-titled for me. This album just does more for me than the self-titled album does. Like, I returned to more songs from this album. The album cover is pretty unique too. I mean, I don't know if it's just me that thinks this as well, but The album cover definitely reminds me of like an album cover that an indie rock band would use or something. I don't know. I don't know if I'm the only one that thinks that, but yeah. The album cover is pretty cool though. But some highlights on this album would have to be Prayers Triangles, really great song. Then you got Doomed User, Hearts Wires, which is a more ambient, dark sounding song, which I like that song. I mean, I think it's pretty good. Then you got Phantom Bride, which is maybe my favorite song on this album. I just really love the chorus. I mean, I love the melodies in this song, and also the heaviness that you get at the very end of the song. I believe this song actually features one of the members of Alice in Chains, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, Phantom Bride, I think it's a fantastic song, and I think it's one of the best songs of their modern era. You also got Rubicon, which is pretty solid album closer, but yeah. Gore, it's obviously not one of their best, but I do think it is a good album, though. Then we gotta talk about the latest Deftones album, Ohms, and this album, it's definitely a step up from Gore for sure. I mean, this is probably their best album in years, to be quite honest. Probably since, I don't know, but it's their best album in a while. I will say that. I mean, I'm still enjoying this album to this day. I mean, there's not a single weak moment on this album. You got songs like Genesis, energetic track, it's pretty heavy. You got Ceremony, and also Error. I mean, Error is probably another one of my favorite songs of the current era of Deftones. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, I just really love the flow and structure and melodies, and just I really love the song Error. It's fantastic. Then you also got Radiant City and the title track. The title track was one of the singles, and I do like that one. Again, I love the melodies in that one, but Ohms, it's fantastic. It's definitely one of the best albums of last year, so there you have it. Great album. So that is my review for the Deftones discography. Overall, pretty solid discography. So let me know what you think. Are you a fan of Deftones? Feel free to let me know. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day, and take care.